Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the glowing introduction. Mr. Harcourt, it's an honor to have you here and always continue to contribute to the City of Vancouver and the province, and I think the world, the whole planet, owes you a debt of gratitude for your work advocating for sustainability in particular over these last years. And, you know, I think that it goes without saying that the future of cities is all about sustainability. There's no question about that. And sustainability is a much overused and perhaps not well understood enough term in these times, and really not probably as clear to everyone that it continues to be, by its very definition, about making sure the planet is in better shape when we leave it than it is when we arrived, and ensuring that future generations have every opportunity that we have had and our predecessors. And that really drills down to the three pillars that I'm sure everyone's familiar with: social, environmental, and economic sustainability, and integrating those. I do have much appreciated Mike's advocacy around culture as a fourth pillar, I think, in sustainability, and I'm guessing he's going to cover that in his remarks. I've got a focus here in Vancouver on being the greenest city in the world, and right next to that, a focus on social sustainability, ending homelessness, and making sure that we are an inclusive city. Those both integrate the economic and cultural pieces into them. I'll just focus on those two then. The greenest city in the world by 2020 is really a combination of ensuring the city is as livable as it can possibly be under increasingly challenging pressures created by the devastation to our environment, the limits on resources that we are bumping up against with peak oil in particular, but certainly the pressures of growing population that is over-consuming the resources of our planet. That's playing out in our cities as populations concentrate, and in Vancouver, as green as we are considered, and we are considered to be the greenest in North America right now, we consume about 4.5 times what we should be consuming. We are four plus planets worth on the consumption level. And if you just start with that basic premise that we have to live in balance with the planet, we are so far out of whack on that level that everything has to flow from there to ensure that we have a viable future. So the pressure is on us. We, whether we know it or not, are consuming and withdrawing, drawing down, in business terms, the capital assets of our planet, and that was only going to last so long before there are serious implications. And civilizations have collapsed when they've concentrated and overconsumed everything around them repeatedly. The history is all there for us to be learning from. Unfortunately, we are driving at this at such an accelerated rate that we're finding it difficult to adapt and change. So for me, the future of cities is all about adapting, more resilience, and embracing change much more quickly than we ever have before. We are developing technologies that enable us to do that now increasingly, but we don't have the social structures, the governance, and the interactions within the community to adapt as fast as I think we're going to need to. There's hope within that, and that hope was exemplified by what happened in February here in Vancouver at the Olympics. Beyond the fantastic time that everybody had and the great spirit and happiness that prevailed at a remarkable level and scale here in Vancouver, there was change that happened that was so dramatic within the transportation system specifically that I think really invigorated me with a lot more hope as to how quickly we can change. We didn't actually change that much. We did a whole series of transportation demand management to make sure that the transit system could function more smoothly, and we did a ton of communication. Some of it was frightening and scary for residents and for businesses, and warning them about potential chaos. But what ended up happening when the games started up was we had a shift. We were hoping for 30% reduction in cars and the corresponding increase in transit, walking, and biking. We actually vastly exceeded that. And we did that without piling megabucks into it. We did that without creating different kinds of chaos. We had a fairly smooth transition into into an entirely different transportation network that was a lot more functional than what we have on a day-to-day basis, and it was that much more functional with hundreds of thousands more people in the city. So that micro example within our city of people basically deciding, I'm going to do things differently. We enabled the change at the street level, literally. We added a little bit of capacity to the transit system, but basically it was able to move more freely. And we saw a massive shift overnight in terms of how people get around in the city. If we're able to scale that kind of an example up and adapt it into all sorts of arenas, whether it's in housing, whether it's in food security, whether it's in how we take care of the environment around us, and respond that much more quickly to the pressure, I think we have a fantastic chance of adapting. The challenge always has been that adaptation doesn't happen until there's real pressure. We manufactured effectively the pressure and the potential for collapse all around a sporting event in this case, which is hardly life and death. More often than not, those kind of responses are triggered by the threat of life and death. And cities or nations have responded with unprecedented speed. In this case, we have this global challenge that we can't really tell how fast it's moving, and we can't necessarily manufacture the kind of crisis or momentum to have rapid adaptation. That's going to be the challenge here. How do we adapt and change and shift into much better public policy that's quick and responsive, emerging technologies that are embraced at a much more rapid pace? How do we get all that to happen before there's serious damage done to the ecosystems and to the communities that really make this world livable? So we're in a predicament here, but I think there's every opportunity to respond to that based on raising the bar. And my commitment in Vancouver is to focus on rapidly accelerating our ability to deal with these challenges. Saying on the homeless scale, it's not okay for people to be sleeping outside all winter. That's got to change now. As fast as we can humanly do that, we got to do that. We can't wait years to make that adaptation. If that is dealing with the environment, we have to work with partners in business to reduce their carbon emissions now. We have to have a program that enables business to do that and is supportive of that. We have to implement policy and regulation, for example, on electric vehicles and infrastructure that makes sure that as soon as those cars come off the line at the manufacturers, there is infrastructure ready to embrace them in cities. And it will be a significant shift in terms of transportation carbon emissions. So we have to have that ready to roll, basically. The challenge is going to be the pace of change and how quickly people can embrace that and engage in that and drive that rate of change. So I see the future as ends up being around this ability as a society to acknowledge the challenges that we have and as quickly as possible take action on them and engage as many people as possible in the partnerships and the advocacy to make sure that that change can happen quickly. I'll leave it there and look forward to more dialogue and the comments of our esteemed panel. Thank you very much.